What's going on, guys? This is Coach Heath. I'm going to be going over some movements today for core stability and core strengthening. So if you're having some issues with posterior tilt, or if you're having any issues doing some overhead presses and either you're flexing the back, the lower back, or if you have some arching issues just because you don't have that stability in the core when doing any type of pressing. So number one thing too, if you're finding yourself either arching your back on certain movements or falling forward, whether that's even something from actually pulling on the ground and you're falling too far, then you may not be engaging your core enough, and of course you may not have the strength on that. So if you're performing any kind of movements without the guide of a coach, or to my clients that are working with me remotely, we can do Skype movements, Skype meetings, so that we can kind of work out and see where those things are coming from. So first off, we're going to talk about engaging the core and identifying any posterior tilt. So first off, we want to identify if you have a posterior tilt. So what I mean by that is if you have your hips and they're kind of like this, and what we want to do is kind of straighten up and tuck your hips in. Another way of thinking about that is think belly button to your butt, okay? So if you're like this, you want to bring those two closer together, okay? And you can practice that at any time, as well as this helping out engage the core. So if you're going to start a workout where you need that core engagement, or if you're in a group class and the instructor says engage your core, think belly button to butt. Tuck those in quicker, okay? Or core is engaged. Now, something else that you can do with this that I like to tell my clients and anybody that I'm working with in groups is practice that at home. So engage the core, engage it, stand. You can have a conversation like I am right now while I'm engaging the core. So if you're sitting there making your cup of coffee in the morning, pop that core. If you're sitting in your car, sitting at a red light, lock in your core. And find those little times. If you're having a conversation with somebody at work or out in public, you can also utilize this as well. So again, if you are identifying that you have a posterior tilt, or if you have any slumping in the back, talk to a professional first to see if there's other ways you can work on that as well. And of course, anybody that's looking for some training, that's something that I like to help my clients identify as well. Right now, remotely, we can do that through Skype, and until we can finally start getting opened up here. All right, so covered over that. Now let me show you some. So the first movement here is going to be kind of like a half farmer's walk. What we're going to really be paying attention is to lifting our leg, and think of it like a march, okay? So first I'm going to hold the weight down to my side. So it doesn't need to be too crazy, do like moderate to heavy for this. Now the whole idea is not to try to limp. You're not trying to focus here on holding on to the weight. What you're trying to focus on is keeping your posture up. So it's the opposite side that you're going to be focusing on. So lifting the leg up with your core, engage that core, lock yourself in, pull, 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 pull. Because we're also focusing on the psoas here to lift these legs up, okay? This is going to be your levitator. So not so much paying attention to trying to keep the weight up here, all right? Just stabilize. So use your core, march, squeeze up, and walk. So let me do that sideways here, okay? So again, posture in, locking that core, belly button to butt, up, up. The main thing here, again, is you don't want to wobble, okay? We're not wobbling. Get through. Now just walking form. Really focus on this, okay? So you're going to march, keeping that core engaged, focusing, staying tight. The other thing that you can do with this, which brings even more core strengthening and stability, is do this with an overhead. You can do that with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. Unfortunately, I don't have the headroom here. So imagine, if you will, me holding overhead a dumbbell or a kettlebell. You can do the same movement, slowly walking. Again, not wobbling, try to keep that core strengthening. So that's why it's important not to go too light, but just heavy enough to where there is a good amount of resistance, but not too much where you're swaying back and forth. So think about anything probably about 55-60% of your 1 rep max on your limitations there. So that's something that you can work on with core stability. All right, so another great movement that you can do for core stability is called the dead bug. So this one is no weights needed at all. You're just gonna get yourself on a mat or on the floor. You're gonna bring your knees in, make sure your legs are 90 degrees. Have your arms up, okay, parallel to the floor, and you're gonna alternate the opposite ligaments. So I'm gonna bring my right arm back and extend my left leg, okay? And this is where you're going to engage the core, let it straighten out, and return, okay? Now do the opposite side. Squeeze, 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 and then relax. Engage the core to bring that knee back in. We're lengthening, and then we're contracting. Lengthening, contracting. Lengthening, and contracting. Okay. Now, as I said in the beginning, you're going to engage the core as you kick the legs out. So you are contracting the core in both movements here. The main thing that I really want you to focus on thinking is that you're lengthening out and then squeezing the core even more as you pull that leg back in. This was another core stability movement. Another core stability movement here, and for strengthening, this is the plank. I'm sure you all have done this before. Again, engaging the core once you get yourself set up into the proper position. So we're gonna get into the start of a push-up position, okay? Make sure that you have your wrists in line with your shoulders. I don't need you to be too far out here or too far close in. Okay, that's gonna do some damage to your wrists and also put a little too much strain on your shoulders, and it's gonna negate working on the core. So, wrist to shoulder, you're gonna have your arms your hands at shoulder width apart. Kicking the legs out on your tippy toes and hold. Now, you can tuck the hips in a little bit so you have a slight arch in your back, but you're going to contract the core here, okay? And then you can relax. Contract, tuck in, and relax. Contract, hold for as long as you can, and relax. If staying in this position while you're relaxing is too much, just drop to your knees, okay? Give yourself about 3 to 5 seconds, then pop back in position. Contract the core, lock it in, tuck, and relax. Tuck, and relax. And there you have plank. Mostly when you work on your core for going to the gym and you're just focusing on ab day or core workouts, majority of them should be core strengthening movements anyhow, whether you know that or not. So there's a plethora of movements that we can talk about here, so I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to do 4 of my favorite for my core exercises. Some of these you're going to need a little bit of room for. I'm going to do what's called windshield wipers first. So this is going to need a lot of room just because you're going to be swinging your legs up and back and forth. So here we are to start with the windshield wipers. Put your hands out for stability so you don't rock back and forth. The main thing that you want to do here is not lift up off your shoulders here. Okay, so I'm going to show you the good way, then I'll show you the bad way, and again with the good way. So feet together, legs up. You're going to twist nice and slow and pull with your core. Bring it back. Back. Keeping my shoulders to the ground. Okay. And we're getting our obliques engaged here as well. Squeeze up and squeeze for the deceleration. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. All right, so the bad way here, if you can see from this view, is if I go too far, I'm kind of stretching that shoulder off the ground here. And that's going to put some strain on the back of the neck, and we don't want to do that. Okay, we want to keep all the focus on the core. So, engaging the core, legs up, back, squeeze, pull, hold for the deceleration, contract for rolling to the other side. Now, once you start getting more advanced in this, you can pick up the pace a little bit. Over, 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 over. Boom. Now, once you get comfortable with that, and it seems to be a little too easy, and even more advanced on this is called figure eights. So, what you can do is lift up, swing around, and make a figure eight. Again, focusing on not having your shoulders leave the ground. So you don't want to go too crazy and swing all willy-nilly, and then we're just going to lose what we're trying to accomplish. So there are the windshield wipers, and more advanced you can do move up to the figure eights. All right, much like the windshield wipers, we're going to be swinging our hips back and forth, but we're going to bring the knees in. So we're going to already be contracting the core from the start. This one you're going to do slow, okay? So we're going to bring our knees in, contracting the core. Legs are 90 degrees. And what you're going to do still is keep the arms out for that stabilization. But this time I want you to bring the knees right to the ground if you can. Okay, you can turn the hips using your obliques to pull yourself up. And then to the other side. Tap. Again, not having your shoulders lift up off the ground. Now, if you don't have that range of motion where you can bring your knees completely down to the floor, what you can do is get yourself a pillow or roll up a towel, whatever you can to give yourself a little deficit off the ground, and just start from there. So if that was a little too advanced for you for your range of motion, then just stick something like a pillow over by you and just drop your knees. As soon as you touch that pillow, bring it up and over. What I've been shown before in a yoga class with an instructor when my range of motion was horrible is that using a Bosu ball was helpful. So if you happen to have a Bosu ball, that one is a perfect height for completing this at a beginner level. All right, another movement here are called side planks. We can do multiple levels of these. So I'll show the moderate, I'll go to the beginner, and I'll go to a little advanced. So again, side crunches. You're gonna choose what side you wanna start on. So I'm gonna face the camera first. What you can do is you can be up on your hands. Ooh, there's a wall there. So get up on your feet, arm is straight, again, wrist in line with the shoulder. And you can put your hands on your hips, you can rest to the side. Make sure you don't dip, okay? That's not what you wanna do. Bring that core in, lock it in, nice tight hips, hand on the side, hand out. Now a little more advanced, raise the arm up for some more balance. But keep that core nice and tight and hips up. If you start to feel yourself dip, bring yourself back in. If you need a second, go ahead and rest. 3, 2, 1, bring it back up, okay? Now, for a more beginner level, that's okay to bring it down your side, or if you have any kind of wrist issues, you can go on your forearm, same movement, hands up for a little more intensity, okay? And then you're gonna alternate the sides, okay? Side planks, hit them up. Last but not least, this one is, all right, last but not least, V-ups. This one is really, really good for the very beginning or at the end for a finisher. Okay, so for the why I say that for the beginning is this is one who's going to use a lot more strength and energy. So if this one is really tough for you, then I would suggest starting with this and then working with the other movements I've listed in this video. Now, if you're a little more advanced, this one is really good for a finisher to put it all in. Okay, so for V-ups, arms are stretched out over your head, legs are together. The heels never touch the floor once you begin this movement. You're going to be out, come in, touch your toes. Back out, touch your toes. Out, contract the core, boom. And back out, contract the core, tap the toes. Back out, tap the toes. Now, if that's a little too advanced for you, you can start in a overhead crunch. You're going to keep the arms up, and I want you to think touching your fingertips to the ceiling, okay? So again, if that movement is a little too hard for you, start right here. Now, instead of throwing your body up, I want you to think that you're contracting your core and squeezing to bring yourself up, okay? So, arms up, try to get your fingertips to touch the ceiling, contract the core, chest up, down, squeeze, 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 and down, back to the floor. See, I'm not going any fast here. This movement is not a race, because once we start to kind of throw our body up like this, not really engaging the core too much, and then our hip flexors actually begin to utilize themselves a little more to keep us stabilized. So, keeping the core contracted, up, nice and slow, up, nice and slow. All right, so that was V-ups. Those a little too tough. Think fingertips to the sky crunch. Thank you guys again for watching. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment below. I'd be more than happy to address those. If you're looking for any personal coaching, I do online training remotely, so it doesn't matter where you are, if you're a state away, if you're halfway across the country, if you're in a completely other country, Iron Junkie Fitness is here to help you reach your goals. Thank you. Have a good day.